going to be liquid. We're taking them away from you. Obviously,
Right.
you saw a similar move with the Canadian government where they actually suspended people's accounts because of their civil actions with protests, et cetera. And we're seeing, G7 countries now making their own currencies less relevant in the future, something we never thought would happen to the dollar. Is that a reality, Jim? Are we going to see just a post-dollar world going forward?
We're getting closer to that. It'll come in stages. Yeah, in Canada, they've gone full fascist. I mean, Trudeau's actually not smart enough to implement a fascist program, even though he wants it. But don't underestimate Chrystia Freeland. She's the deputy prime minister and also the minister of finance. She is a real neo-fascist, and she's the one who, the thing with Canada, like in the US, I don't know, we got 7,000 banks or whatever, but in Canada, you really only have 5 banks. There's some smaller ones, basically 5 big banks. And during the trucker protests, which was completely nonviolent, it was, they were honking the horns at 3 a.m. They blocked traffic. They shut down Central Auto, all true. But it was nonviolent. And all Trudeau had to do was walk out, meet the leaders of that group, and there were leaders, make a few concessions, say, we're listening to you. We're going to ease up on the COVID testing, crossing the border. If you're alone in a truck, who are you going to give COVID to? I mean, that's all he had to say. And they would have said thank you and gone home. Instead, they beat them in the streets. They trampled old women with horses. They arrested the truckers. So Freeland calls up the banks, gets all the bank account information on a national security basis, freezes all their accounts, calls up the crypto exchanges. Don't tell me that crypto's safe. It's not. Calls up the crypto exchanges, freezes their crypto wallets, puts them in jail, pre-detention, pre-hearing detention with no bail, and confiscates their trucks. These people can't feed their families, and they're still in jail. So that's her fascist roots have really come to the fore. And Canada kind of gets worse. And I have a place in Canada. I spent a lot of time there, so I kind of say, and I know Freeland for better or worse, but I know her personally. So that's pretty bad. But yeah, going around the world, the key distinction, Brian, this is important. A lot of people mush them together. There's a payment currency and a reserve currency, and they can be the same. The dollar is the leading payment currency and the leading reserve currency.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Replacing a reserve currency is tough. Replacing a payment currency is not so tough. You need some agreement, but this is coming together on multiple fronts. So you got the BRICS, but Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But the BRICS are now sort of like BRIC plus. So because Argentina, Iran, Turkey, Kazakhstan, a lot of other countries have joined in these BRICS summits. So they're working on a payment currency process. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Central Asia, led by China and Russia, that is working on the same thing. That group is working on the same thing, and they're getting new members. There's something called the, try to get the name right, Euro-Asian Free Trade Area, like EUFTA or something. It's sort of Russia's answer to the EU, but that's getting new members. And you can say, oh, who cares about Belarus? Well, sorry, they have a lot of grain, a lot of energy, Kazakhstan, Russia, Serbia. But again, you're getting adhesion from places like Iran and Turkey that actually are important. So all of these organizations are working on new payment systems, and it's not that difficult for the exact reason you mentioned. It's like, okay, I don't like the US, I'm an adversary, I don't like what they're doing, but the dollar works. As long as you leave the dollar alone, I'll continue to use it, even though I disagree with everything you stand for. But when you mess with the dollar, when you actually weaponize it, and it has been for a long time, but this is an extreme. You froze the reserves of the Central Bank of Russia. You froze their treasury securities, which is tantamount to default, technically. You kicked the 10 largest Russian banks out of SWIFT. And Lavrov said 3 years ago, if you de-SWIFT us, which we call de-SWIFTing, if you de-SWIFT us, we consider it an act of war. Well, that, what goes around comes around. So yes, I think, and of course with electronic technology and digital currencies, not crypto as such, not necessarily blockchain, but central bank digital currencies, and you can create your own, and you can create a new one without too much difficulty. There's a story breaking the other day. Russia's asking India to pay for oil with UAE dinar. So not the dollar, but not the rupee. It's the dinar. Well, why? Well, Dubai is a financial center, a big one, a major transshipment center. They're neutral in this thing. They have not joined the U.S. sanctions. Neither, well, of course, China hasn't, but neither have Brazil, Iran, Turkey. I mentioned China, a lot of Southeast Asia, a lot of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. None of them have joined the sanctions. It's U.S., Canada, EU, Australia, Japan. It's about it. Big countries. It's a big part of the global economy, but not all of it by any means. Not even close. And so they're all